We're recording.
All right, welcome to the Helm Public Developer Stand-Up and Meeting. It's May 9th. For those of you new to the call, the format is we kick it off with announcements, follow that up by core maintainers from the projects doing their stand-ups. Then we have a few discussion topics today, and then at the end we'll do assignments for the responsibilities over the next week. As far as I know, there are no announcements. Did anybody have any that didn't make it onto the agenda? All right, so we'll kick it off with stand-ups. Adam, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So missed last week because we had internal meeting. Also did some code reviews, working on some cleanup stuff, trying to get ready for tagging the first alpha. I also drafted up a release rollout proposal and created an issue, but we can talk about that in the discussion area. So with that, go Josh.
Missed last week as well. I've been doing continued stuff with the registry pieces. I got the login was merged. We've put things into two new subcommands, registry and chart. So you do Helm registry login versus just Helm login. So it's not confusing that you're maybe logging into a cluster or something like that. So that's about it for me. Martin?
Apologies, having audio problems at this side. Yeah, I had a shorter week this week. We had a long weekend, so was looking at PRs mostly, doing some reviews, also some commits myself, and a few merges of PRs. I took a look the last day or two at I'd left it for a while on the V2, V3 migration stuff. So just kind of looking what we've put in there, where we're going towards. I suppose thinking of the users, the operators or whatever that have a V2 system out there installed in a cluster and they would like to move on to V3. So looking at what that might entail for them. Now, I suppose it's still at an early stage because it still looks like we've gone from config maps, we've gone over to secrets, but we're still storing stuff as base64 encoding the data for the release. Are we still going to do that or not? And what changes will happen between here and then? But I suppose I'm just trying to look at what are the main things. Will it be around state? Will it be around the resources? Are these the things that need to be converted over? Being able to give those steps in a document to somebody, a live document that they'll be able to update, etc., and then maybe build the tools around those manual steps and be able to reference the tools. So yeah, if you get time, it'd be great to have your feedback in there. Obviously I'm going to make mistakes, but it's good to have it out there so that you can correct them and we can see where we're going. So yeah, that's what's happening on that. So I'll hand over to Matt Fisher.
Yeah, and I think those discussions would be fantastic with the proposal of the V3 release. We did have a little bit of an internal meeting. I'll go into my stand-up actually before we go into that. But yeah, we did talk about those discussions and probably when would we like to document those kind of things as we get closer to like a beta and whatnot. So what I've been working on this week, I've been trying to figure out the last few things that we need to kind of tackle together for getting an initial alpha release out. So with Adam, we've been working on kind of like what was the proposal. So there was that, the stuff that we were working on. And then what I've been working on for the last week has been taking a look at moving us out of the Google Cloud Storage account and taking a look at different options here. So because I have experience working with Azure, I've been testing around with that. So, and I know people have opinions on that and whatnot. So I added that as a discussion item so we can talk about, or at least I can give a demo of what I've worked on and how that works. So then we can kind of discuss and poke holes at that and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's what I've been working on this week. What I'm hoping to do, and it's also a discussion item, is like talk about what do we want to do for the releases for both Helm 3 for the first alpha release, as well as where we are in the state of like Helm 2. Are we in releasable state or not? So I've added that as discussion items for later on. So with that, I will pass off to, I think that Butcher?
Brian, I think, and
yeah.
Matt Farina, I think, are the two.
Perfect. Okay. Pass off to Brian.
So last week I was out similar to the other maintainers, and otherwise I've been just working on conversion packages for going from Go to Lua, so kind of like the equivalent of map structure, but using a much simpler implementation using Lua values. And I'm working off of a dev branch that's on Azure, Go Lua, and hopefully by the end of this week or mid next week, I should have this code pushed up, which will enable us to start prototyping what Helm's needs are for the Alpha 2. That's what I've been doing. I'll pass to you, Matt Farina.
All right. So I have been working on, well, I was the issue Sherpa. So I went through a whole bunch of issues and responded. A lot of them were just support and questions, things like that. I did a few small commits. A bunch of it was carrying stuff over that we've done in Helm 2 and bringing it into Helm 3 and cleaning some of that up. There are still a number of things that need to be cherry-picked over, which is how I've been approaching it, because changes and stuff are still going in. So I've started to work on those kinds of things. That's probably enough for the week. Then I'll pass it back. Butcher?
Yep. Okay. Most of my news is org-related news. Matt Farina and I had our weekly check-in with CNCF last week and got through several small issues with them. All of that went pretty well. As you all know, we're probably one of the best situated projects inside of CNCF right now. We have one hurdle remaining before we graduate from incubation, and that is the security audit. The security audit we will plan to do after we've released beta 1 of Helm 3. And that may take many months, but it would be nice if we got it done before Helm 3 final, but even after, it would be okay. So that will make us, the 4th project to graduate, I think. So that's all good. Everything is going very well on that front, and we've heard plenty of good feedback. Secondly, we are working on a branding refresh. Now, as a reminder, branding is not part of Helm. Branding is part of Helm org. So the Helm org maintainers and Ronan are working together on putting some stuff together. We're really excited about it. So we'll show previews probably around the beta phase, but we won't start using that branding till very, very close to the final release of Helm 3. So largely it'll look similar, but we figured it was time to refresh it and update it to bear some of the aesthetic sensibilities of the CNCF org instead of the old Deus org where we started. So that'll be coming out. We're probably talking like July or August at this point. KubeCon EU, we've got all the sessions filled for that, and I think also workshops going on there. So all of that stuff seems to be falling into place nicely. Helm Summit, everything is on track. So if you haven't taken a look, it's this September. And our paper submission still open on that one? Do you know what the deadline is for that?
Yeah, so we have CFPs open all the way through KubeCon EU and for 1 week after, if I recall. So it extends all the way to the end of May. I think June 1st or May 30th or 31st is the deadline. So end of May.
And then, so as you recall, org maintainers, a number of the things on our that fall under our purview are things that cannot happen in public, like code of conduct violations and things like that. So up until this week, the only avenue for discussing those has been to schedule a live meeting we decided this week that we wanted to be able to do these things privately in Keybase, so we created a new Keybase channel for that. So from the org maintainer side, we're kind of maturing into our role as org maintainers, and all of that has fallen into place. If you see Scott Rigby around, thank him profusely, because he has been doing a ton of work on that stuff, and has seriously moved the ball forward on about 6 or 8 different things that are just kind of the tedious sort of things that nobody wants to do. So we're looking forward to getting a bunch of that stuff on the org maintainership revised over the summer, which will be good because it's been sort of sidelined while we got everything situated on Helm 3. When it comes to Helm 3 specifically, I think I might have reviewed 2 PRs this week. Other than that, everything's been org side. So I think that's it for me. The next thing on the agenda is to move on to a couple of the different discussion points. And the first one, and probably the one that we all are most interested in right now, is the plan for the Helm v3 release cycle. Adam opened an issue, so I'll hand it over to Adam.
Okay, yeah, I just posted a link in chat as well. If anybody wants me to share, I can. But so this is kind of a high-level plan that was put together for rolling out 3 different alphas. The reason I was thinking of doing that is because then each alpha will have one of the larger features included in it. That way we can test, have users test those features in isolation. It might be easier to find bugs that way. So for the first alpha, we're pretty much there. There's just a few cleanup things, and then that's pretty much all good to go. We just got to finish reviewing a couple PRs, get them merged. Then for alpha 2, the focus of that is going to be around the Lua with charts. Also Helm test, some of the XDG stuff, removal of Helm init, then full integration of OCI into the standard Helm commands. Right now they're separate commands, so they're 2 separate things. And then alpha 3, looking at the storage layer, upgrades using apply logic, and then using Lua for CLI plugins. So this is very high level. I saw Farina, you have a few comments on here about specifics on there. That's fine if we want to break that out and have a separate discussion about it. I was just trying to lay out at least a high level plan for these are our targets. If we want to discuss specific issues on there, I say we kind of break that out into separate issues or discussions from here. This was more just laying out like a timeline almost, and setting expectations for the community for when they can start playing with features. Any questions, comments, compliments?
I would like to move that if nobody has objections on this today, we just keep moving forward. This issue's, I don't want this to end up being a blocker for multiple weeks, especially if we're going to do Alpha 1 next week. So if you've got anything on here for Alpha 1 or Alpha 2 that you violently disagree with, let's get it out now so that we can unblock Alpha 1 and delegate appropriately for Alpha 2.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
And is Alpha 1 due for just before KubeCon, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we're pretty much there. It's just some little cleanup stuff and get some PRs finished and merged. And then I'm thinking probably beginning of next week, we'll cut that.
Yeah, I've the PR that we might try and get in as well for the live version.
Yeah, so that's been one PR that I think we've been wanting to take a look at and get that in. Initially, we had thought of like making that an Alpha 2, but then we actually looked at it and actually that's probably something we could get in for Alpha 1. So that's something that we definitely do, like your PR in particular about library charts and not rendering those templates. We definitely want to take a look at that one and see if we can get it in. So yeah. And you can, on the proposal that's listed on there. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, that's why I included it on Alpha 1, because I don't think it'll be any issue getting that merged.
Yeah. Thanks for reviewing that as well. It was good feedback.
The one thing that I wanted to ask is, so we talked about, or something that was on a discussion thread was how we want to manage the releases and the project planning going forward. Do we want to talk about that here, or do we want to make a follow-up discussion about like creating milestones and doing the project planning and all that, and make that kind of like a focus working group on how we want to do project planning moving forward for the next alphas?
Well, for this, I wanted to focus on just alphas, going into beta, and then our actual release cycle, that's going to be much different. So we can have a separate discussion around that.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just to be clear, at this point, there's nothing missing from the Alpha 1 list, right? No major feature that we need to get in that would go for Alpha 1. Because the earlier we can release that, the happier I will be. Probably the happier all of us will be. Okay.
Okay, cool. And everybody's good with splitting it up into the 3 threat strategy. All right, the silence have it. Back to you, Butcher.
All right. Now I got to go back to the document. Okay. Second discussion point, Fisher, was anything else we need to get in before we cut RC1? Sorry, point 14, RC1.
Yeah. So I think it was last week or the week before, there was Matt Farina and Martin, you both pointed out that there was actually an issue with Helm Create, and that was like a showstopper, and I think we patched that. So I think that one's been addressed. Is there anything pressing or any major PRs that are out there that we are aware of that we need to take a look at or review before we can consider cutting a 214? Or do we think we're pretty much in a ready state to go through that song and dance?
Did that database one make it in?
Oh, I don't think that one did. So I think that was holding off on a review from you, actually, not from me. I think I've LGTM'd that one, and I think the reviewer was waiting on you to approve.
I reviewed it again. I probably didn't mark it LGTM. Sorry. Okay. I'll go back. I'll follow up on that one.
Yeah, that would be a great one to get in. Okay.
Just one thing as well, that if someone doesn't mind me shadowing them for the release, I might do that. So going forward, then if I can help out doing a release, if that's okay. If it's too much hassles, don't worry about it.
The first one's going to be interesting. It's going to be kind of out of the box because I'm not quite sure how we're going to do that with the Helm 2 and Helm 3 and with the final branch. I guess we're going to cut it off of the dev. There's some stuff to be figured out on that. So the second one will probably be a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, we just tag off the alpha branches, all we needed, or off the dev branch for the alpha. That's all.
Yeah, I just got to make sure Circle's going to be okay with that.
Right. Yeah. Because, I mean, we do a release dash something, and that's the one that uploads to Google Cloud. So we might need to take a look at
Circle. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's off the tag. So I'm pretty sure we won't have an issue.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't want to promise that without looking at it.
Okay, I just realized Adnan joined. Adnan, do you want to do anything for stand up, or are you good?
I don't have anything. Just listening in. Thanks.
All right, so I just opened up that issue to review. I had reviewed it. I'll check it one more time, but because there's one more push since I last reviewed it, I just totally flaked on LGTMing it. Fisher, you have down a demo for get.helm.sh?
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of show the POC that I kind of came up with to help us get that migration off of the Kubernetes storage. So I'll just share my screen here and I'll show you what it kind of looks like. So everyone can see the dev notes right now, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is the Helm admin Azure account here. So we have a new storage account that I've created called Get Helm. And on there, basically what it has is we have all the release assets that we've had in Helm 2. I migrated over, as in like did a GSUtil rsync to my local machine and then copied them over because the migration from Google to Azure. So we have all of the existing stuff in here, all the old like V200 Alpha 1 or Alpha 5, apparently, and Beta 1. So we have all the very old releases all available in here. And how to make that exposed and put that on a custom domain is I had to create a CDN. So I've done this a couple of times before with a couple of blogs. But all you really have to do is create an Azure CDN and then set up a custom domain on it. So I've got get.helm.sh with a custom HTTPS. So it's all deployed and available and ready to go. And all the assets that were inside that cloud store or inside that storage account is now available. Now, the nice thing is, so if I go get.helm.sh, let's see, Helm v2.13.1, or yeah, 1, 0. And v64.par.gc. So we have all of them available. Or maybe, oh, missing a typo there. There we go. So now we get the actual package there. So the URLs are all working and everything's available. Now the nice thing here with the Azure CDN is that we get a lot of interesting analytics and reports to be available here. So if we look at the advanced HTTP reports and we get the world map here, we can see that there's some crazy Canadian over here who's been downloading off of the get.helm.sh site for some time and is taking up 20% of all traffic inbound. But you can also see some people from Poland and from the United States who have been pulling metrics already from there. So we're starting to get some analytics and metrics as people are like playing and tinkering with it, and a bunch of hits that are unknown users. But we're starting to get these kind of analytic reports, real-time statistics, and all that from the Edge CDN. So we can get things like the amount of bandwidth, the internal transactions and whatnot that have been happening. So we can see there's a big spike in bandwidth from the last time that I spiked and hit a bunch of downloads. So yeah.
Can we actually get it down to the individual chart level?
Not chart, the individual download level.
That is an interesting one. I think there is a way to actually get the URLs that are in there. So if we go into...
By the way, for anyone who's wondering, the reason that I ask is the last time I pulled metrics down on the downloads through Google Cloud, which was last summer, there was still somebody grabbing 2.0.0 Alpha 3 or something like that on a regular basis, probably in CI somewhere. So I'm curious. I'm just curious to be able to keep track of these things.
Yeah, that's interesting. The page isn't loading. Oh, here we go. So we're actually getting the URL metrics here. So we can see from the URL point, we are getting v2.13.1 is the largest amount of hits, bytes in, bytes out. So the bandwidth, the transfer, and how long it's taken to download. And then we're also getting Canary is also being pulled down here, the fav icon, v2.10.0. So we're getting all the individual URLs and we're able to actually get those analytics from what is the most popular downloads here and where is it coming from. And then with the world reports, we're actually able to see where and what regions in particular are actually interested in pulling that information out. So yeah, we do have access to those analytics and those metrics.
So a couple things for people who don't know, why are we moving off of Google? Well, part of it is because we have been asked by the Kubernetes admins to move off. Part of it is because a huge chunk of our metrics has been irrecoverably lost. And by huge chunk, I mean pretty much all of them. And part of it has become the issue that Chinese people cannot access Google storage, and that's a requirement for several people in the community. So we've been evaluating various options. The Azure stuff that Matt Fisher showed is coming off of Helm's Azure credits, but is by no means the only solution we've been looking at. And then the metric stuff is one of our high. Go ahead, Matt. I know what you're going to say, so go ahead.
It's not just the metrics. So from the Kubernetes perspective, the containers that we're using over there, the buckets we're using, are actually from the Google managed Kubernetes and not the CNCF managed Kubernetes. And so even Google or even Kubernetes has to move off of those things. And for example, there's no way to transfer buckets between projects, right? And so this project is a Google owned project. And so we have to lose the name no matter what. And that was kind of an impetus to say, how do we get to China, right? Because that's a big deal. How do we get better metrics on it? We've been working on a few different ways to get container pull metrics, things like that, because we want to know what's in use, who's using what, and how to do stuff, and where they're doing it at. We want to gather some of that information. And so that's the reason. And this is an Azure account that the Helm project has that's linked to the CNCF. That's where it comes through. All right, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, go ahead, Fisher, if there's any more you want to keep going. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Josh for the next one.
No, so that was the demo. So I guess the question or the ask here is, because we're wanting to do an Alpha 1 release and we do want to have download metrics and whatnot, do we feel like that is a comfortable enough solution for us to go forward with an Alpha 1 to get those download metrics available for the initial Alpha release? And if so, then we should take a look at evaluating whether that should be in for the Alpha 1 release so we can get those metrics out. So I guess that's the only like action item that I would like to propose out of here, is that if we have the solution, we have everything ready and running to go, is that the right one that we want to move forward with? And if not, well, we should try and enumerate those things so we can have a good path forward. So.
Yeah, and I think Farina, you're kind of the de facto keeper of the analytics stuff.
Yeah, and well, thank you. My
You like
philosophy.
how I delegated that so subtly?
I do. My philosophy on this would be, which thing gives us what we need with the least amount of work. So I don't see any problem with not using this. I'm still going to poke at Artifactory on the side just to see, because they may have some analytics that we're interested in, or some other features when it comes to containers, because we do have a number of containers and things like that, and how can we bring it all together. But I don't see that as something that should block on this.
Our kind of last minute to make the call has got to be this time next week, right? Because we have to be releasing by this time next week.
Yeah, we have to make the call before we cut the release, so then we can get the release assets uploaded to wherever we want it to be. And if we don't make an action call on that soon, then it'll just be uploaded to Google Cloud Storage. So
is the Rejects conference Saturday in Barcelona? When does that one start? I think that's the earliest. I know there were some workshops happening in Barcelona on Sunday, but I can't remember when.
I think it was Saturday.
Yeah, one of the other issues is we're going to have to set up CI for this.
I've already set that up, Adam.
Okay.
So I have a PR up and ready and available, and all the like the credentials and everything's ready. So it is okay.
All right, we are at time. Mysteriously, Nikhil is already signed up as the issue Sherpa. Was that a mistake, or is that accurate?
No, he put a comment out in Slack to say he couldn't make it, and he said sign him up for whatever he wanted. So he's paying for a new car for me as well. So thank you, Nikhil.
All right. Okay, so all we need for next week are notes and moderator.
I'll moderate.
I can notes.
The last item on the agenda that we're not going to get to in this meeting is the OCI namespacing.
I'll send an email to the mailing list about it.
Is there any reason that this is blocking on Alpha 1? Do we need to do a one-off meeting to cover it, or can we delay till next week?
I don't think so. I'll send something to the cartographers list.
Okay, so we'll bump that up to first thing to do next week.
Cool.
All right, any last comments? Are we good? All right, thank you all again. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.